So good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us. This is Josh Weisman. I'm not Josh. As presenters here, we have Josh Weisman, VP Development, and myself, Yoel Kortick, Senior Librarian. And August 20th today, 2020, and we're going to be discussing the Ex Libris Cloud Apps, enabling agility and efficiency of community apps. And we're sure you'll all already heard about the cloud apps. This is your chance to ask any questions you may have. We're going to show some live demonstrations. We're also going to explain some background, why we've done this, what it's all about, how you can contribute, how you can take advantage of this. We'll be pointing out along the way the various places where you can learn more about the cloud apps, the blogs, the Knowledge Center, the Developers Network. You've got here the App Center on the Developers Network, a message going out to everybody, announcing the cloud apps. This presentation, which I'm showing right here, will also be presented to everybody when we send out the recording. And I will already point out now that you can get this already. Let me open up a separate browser here. If you go to the Knowledge Center, you can get this. And I'm going to give everybody right now the address so you can immediately download this without even needing first to wait for us to send out the recording. So the PowerPoint that we're looking at right now, which Josh is going to begin showing very shortly, just before we go in live, the majority of this presentation will be showing everything live. And I'm sending out to everybody right now a link to that presentation so you've got it. And Josh, I'll turn this over to you now.
Okay, great. Thanks, Yoel.
Okay, changing your role to presenter. Take it away.
Great, thanks. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Excited to talk to you about Cloud Apps, which is our new initiative. Hot off the presses, as they say, just announced last month during the online eLuna event and just released for general availability in our August release, which was just 2 weeks ago. So we're quite excited about it. So today we're going to spend some time talking about the background, why we developed Cloud Apps, where it fits in our overall vision for the open platform. And then I'll talk to you a little bit about Cloud Apps themselves, how they work, what kind of use cases they might be appropriate for, how you can benefit from them as users, and then a little bit for how you can develop them or how you can guide the developers who might be in your organization to resources which might be helpful. And then we'll do a live demo. We'll show you how to activate, install, and use Cloud Apps. And I'll pass it back to Yoel, and he'll do a deep dive in one particular app. So I want to start off by talking about our open platform. This is just some background to help kind of paint the picture of why we developed and why we invested in building out this framework. So the open platform is the name that we use to describe all of our products playing nicely in the ecosystem of your institution. So that includes standards, OAI, NSTIP, those types of things. That includes REST APIs to be able to access data and workflows within Ex Libris products, and that includes turnkey integrations. So whether it's financial systems or student systems or course systems, we have some integrations that work on a turnkey basis. So those are kind of all of the elements of our open platform. And just if we look at it in terms of numbers, so we see really a tremendous adoption of the open platform by customers. So there are more than 200 REST APIs available in Alma, 50 standards, those 3-4 letter acronyms, are supported across Ex Libris products. Every single day across all of our systems, there are 5 million API calls that are made, which is just a tremendous number. And it really shows the adoption and the usage by institutions of the REST APIs which are available. We introduced some time ago something called webhooks, which allows your systems and your own institutions to get notifications from Alma instead of having to use APIs to poll Alma. You can actually get notifications when certain events happen. There were 19 million webhooks sent just last month, which is great, also showing the adoption there. And then this last green circle here talks about 70 apps being available for download on the App Center. So last year, we introduced the App Center, which is a place on the developer network for community developers to showcase their apps. So we see some great innovation within the developer community. We've had folks who've written scripts and apps that work against Ex Libris products. And often we see on our various product lists, we see, has anyone written an app like this? Does anyone have an example of that? So we wanted to make one place where a developer could share their app, have a link to download it, be searchable in Google. And so we've seen just since the launch of the App Center, we've seen developers share 70 apps that can be downloaded and used, which is great. Now those apps, though, they're standalone, so they can be downloaded. But once you download them, if you want to, let's say you want to use one of those apps which is shared in the App Center, so there are a few challenges, let's say, for users who are less technical. So there's some requirements. You have to create a runtime environment. If the app runs in, who knows, in Python, you have to make sure you have Python installed. You have to have an API key. So there are there's a certain barrier that you have to cross in order to be able to leverage those apps and make use of those apps. And from the developer side, if they want to make the app available, so they have to, they can put a link to download it, but if you want to make, a hosted version, so you have to host the app, you have to monitor the app, and there's some burden there that we want to be able to reduce and allow developers to overcome. And then the last kind of challenge is that these apps are all standalone, so they're great, and we see these apps make 5 million API calls a day, these and many others, of course, but they're not integrated into Alma or into the Ex Libris product. And so you would do something within the user interface, and you can go to an app or script or do something and run the app, and then you go back into the user interface to see what the changes were. And so we were aware of these limitations when we built the App Center. We had it in mind that we wanted to take these apps to the next level. We wanted to allow developers to write apps, and for users, for institutions, to leverage apps in a much easier way. And that's how we got to Cloud Apps, which we're announcing now. Cloud Apps is a framework, an open framework, which allows Ex Libris community members or partners, or even Ex Libris ourselves, to create apps which then run inside of the higher ed cloud platform. So I'll mention Alma a lot today, only because the current apps which are available work with Alma. But the Cloud Apps framework works inside of our higher ed platform. So any of the higher ed platform products, whether it's the Primo V back office, or Leganto, or Explorer back office, or Rialto, or Rapido. So the Cloud Apps can work for any of those products as well. So it's not just Alma. And we really see the Cloud Apps as being able to allow libraries to improve their efficiency. And of course, we're all looking to improve efficiency, especially in today's environment, because Cloud Apps allow libraries to either write or leverage apps which extend the functionality of Alma or other products, and allow institutions to respond in an agile way. So requirements change quickly. And of course, we could wait for a feature to be added to the product, but the Cloud App open framework kind of apps which can then be installed and used right away. Okay, so you can respond quickly in an agile way to changes which happen to requirements in a fast-changing manner. So Cloud Apps are easily searched, they're installed, and they're launched directly within Alma by an end user. Okay, so an end user can go, and I'll show you how to do this live in a few minutes. You can go and you can install an app, and it's available for use immediately. Cloud Apps can respond to the context of the user session. So if you're, for example, looking at a page with bibliographic records or with user records, the Cloud App knows what page you're looking at and can offer you functionality around the records that are being displayed. And then, of course, Cloud Apps are run in the Ex Libris platform, so there's no requirement for an API key, no configuration of a runtime environment. So you see here how we are trying to address the challenges that I mentioned earlier in terms of being able to share apps among the community. So, I mentioned that cloud apps are really the next step in the evolution of the open platform. So along with REST APIs and standard support, we see cloud apps fitting right into that to the open platform. And cloud apps, enable really opens up the platform for institutions, for partners, for developers to build their own apps and build different types of apps. And I'll talk about what kinds of apps you might want to build in a few minutes. And so it allows institutions to be very responsive, as I mentioned, respond in an agile way, to be very responsive to the needs of its users. So whether it's to make users more efficient, or to add functionality, or to integrate with other systems. So you are now have an open platform which you can either use or build apps which answer your particular needs without having to rely on Ex Libris to build or to wait for Ex Libris to build every single feature into the platform. So again, it's a great way to expand really exponentially the use of the platform and to leverage the skills and the ingenuity and creativity of the developer community. So there are a few benefits of cloud apps at kind of three different levels. So first of all, institutions. So institutions are always looking for ways to make users more efficient. So institutions can allow users to install apps, or can even ask their developers to build apps. And we also offer some governance policies around apps as well. So institutions still have control over what their users are allowed to install. So an administrator for Alma can go in and enable cloud apps. And then you can specify, if you want to, that your users can only install certain apps, or they can install all apps except for a certain group of apps. So you really have the ability to enable, to empower your users to leverage these time-saving apps and still adhere to your governance policies. That's at the institution level. At the user level, of course, they can now enjoy the new functionality and the streamlined workflows. And these apps, as I mentioned, are they're integrated into a user's workflow, into Alma itself, so that users can make use of these apps without having to go back and forth and do things in many different places. And then finally, developers. So what's the benefit for them? Well, I think it's pretty clear. Developers can now deliver innovative apps. They can answer the needs and requirements of users in their own institution or the wider community. And they don't have to host or manage the runtime environment. They can build the app as a cloud app. And now it can be instantly shared with all the users in their organization, their institution, as well as the wider community. It's really a great platform for developers to work in. So we have a number of apps that are available now with the launch of cloud apps. And we've seen that these apps have fit into one of three different categories, broadly speaking. So the first is adding new functionality. So, cloud apps open up the platform and allow developers to add new functionality, which is not currently supported by the product. And then users can make use of that new functionality that the app has, which is great. And apps can be productivity related. So you might have a certain workflow, which is possible inside the product today, but may not be the most efficient workflow. Or you may have a particular kind of, side use case which has not been optimized. And so cloud apps allow you to build or leverage an app which is specifically aimed at a particular workflow and make it even more efficient. And then finally, the third type of app which we've seen is integration. So you can integrate with external systems. So cloud apps have the ability to pull in data from third-party systems or to share data with other systems as well. So cloud apps can be used to integrate the data and the workflows within Alma with other systems. So right here at launch, even though it's only the framework is only 2 weeks old, we have already 11 cloud apps which are available today that you can install, and they're here on this screen. And of course, we will share this link and show you how you can see all the different apps that are available. And I'll just highlight a number of them now, just to kind of show you some different apps and how they fit into those three different categories, broadly speaking, that I mentioned earlier, and then we'll hop over and do a live demo. So we worked with a number of customers, number of institutions in a Cloud Apps focus group, as we do very often when we're working on new functionality. And so we got input from several institutions in the community to help us make sure that we're answering the use cases which are most important to them. We've even had a few institutions that have written their own cloud apps, which I'll highlight for you in a minute. And for other cloud apps, we were actually working with customers who have a particular need, whether it's a certain workflow which is not optimized or a particular integration they'd like to see. And so we wrote cloud apps that answer those particular needs. So this is an example of one of those. So an institution came to us with a challenge. They have their workflow requires them to update tax, VAT, for invoice lines within an invoice. And if you have an invoice with a lot of lines, it can take a long time to go into each individual invoice line and update the tax rate. And so we created an app which allows you to set a tax rate for each different line, invoice line type. And then at the click of a button, the app goes and updates the tax for all of the invoice lines. And so again, this is a productivity type of tool, which helps the users who have that particular job, that particular workflow, to do it in a much more efficient way. The same thing with this, the Role Toggler app. So this was written by one of the members of our focus group. And they had a workflow where they have requirements which state that they have to activate or deactivate all of the users' roles at the end of a semester, and then reactivate them when the new semester starts. And so that's what their audit requirements are. And so that is a workflow which, if a user has a lot of roles, can be cumbersome within the Alma UI. So they wrote an app which allows you, again, at the click of a button, to activate or deactivate all of the users' roles. And this app makes use of some of the functionality of the framework. In particular, you can have user settings. So when someone installs this app, they can go to a settings screen within the app that allows you to exclude certain user roles. So for example, you can say, you know what, I want to deactivate all the roles except the patron role. That one you should leave alone. And so this makes use of that to allow the user of the app to specify some settings. This is an example of an integration type of an app. So with the HathiTrust repository. So this app responds to the bibliographic records that are shown on the screen. It goes out and queries the HathiTrust repository to check to see if if these records, a full text is available on HathiTrust, pulls the results back in, and then shows them within the cloud app. So an example of an integration pulling in data from another system. And this app is called an appointment scheduler. So this is an example of new functionality which did not exist within Alma before. And as a part of the COVID response, we saw a lot of talk in the product lists about how to schedule appointments when you start to go back to libraries physically in person. So there was a need to say, you know what, I want to be able to schedule pickups for requested items, or I want to be able to schedule that only 3 patrons or 3 students can be at a circulation desk at any particular time, or at a research librarian's desk, for example. And there are a number of ways of doing this. Some institutions were using third-party systems. There's a way to do it within Alma by setting up booking requests and items that limit the number of people. And here is another example of how to do it. We built an app that allows you to define locations and then gives you a nice calendar where you can say, I want to set up an appointment for a particular patron at this time and at this location. The appointment scheduler uses the user details to send them an email saying, hey, an appointment has been scheduled for you. And so again, it's an example of how you can add functionality to Alma, something which Alma didn't support previously, which now using the Cloud App framework, we're able to have Alma support. And this last example is also a COVID-specific or COVID-inspired example, and that is that some institutions were concerned that when they went back to their libraries physically, there'd be a pile of serials to receive. And now some institutions are able to use prediction patterns, and so it's simply a matter of scanning in the items, but other institutions create the items on the fly, and that workflow was identified as not particularly efficient for them, especially given the fact they would have a large number of serial items to create. So we built an app that you can specify for a particular PO line, for a particular bibliographic record, allows you to create and receive an item in within one screen. So again, a productivity type of an app. So I highlighted 4 or 5 different cloud apps we have available now. And then I can hop out and show you a demo. Let me go ahead and do that. Okay. So hopefully you can still see my my screen. I am now in Alma. And I'll show you just how to activate Cloud Apps for the first time. So you'll notice, first of all, that I am in the new layout. Cloud Apps work within the new layout. The new layout is something which was which is available in the August release as an opt-in, and over the coming months will be pushed out to all users. So you can activate the new layout within your user settings, up here in user settings. And if you're an administrator, you can click on administration configuration, go to general, and then go to Cloud Apps configuration. And you see here that Cloud Apps are enabled in this environment. Okay, if they were not enabled, you'd have a link there to enable Cloud Apps. That would pop you into a different screen within the developer network where you can read the terms of use and then go ahead and click a button to activate. That's all it takes. Once you come back to Alma and refresh the screen, you now have Cloud Apps activated in your environment. And you also have the ability to specify that you want to allow users to use all Cloud Apps, to allow only selected ones, or to hide certain ones that you don't want them using. So again, from the institutional perspective, it gives you the ability to control which Cloud Apps users are able to install. So let's go ahead back into our main layout. Once I've enabled Cloud Apps, I have this little Cloud App Center icon up here in the upper right-hand corner. Okay, and if I click on that, that shows me the Cloud Apps that are currently installed within for my user. Cloud Apps are installed at a user level. So activating Cloud Apps is done once by an administrator, and then they're active for all users in the institution. And Cloud Apps are then installed on an individual user basis. Let me just go ahead and uninstall this one so I can walk through the process to see how that is installed. Let's go ahead and do that. So here I have a number of apps that are installed already. And to see apps that are available, I can come over here to the available apps link. And then I have a list of apps that are available. I can also click on the search and I can search for one, like HathiTrust, okay? And once I find it under available apps, I can click on it. And I see here a description of the app, who it was written by, the version. I know that this app uses external websites. It goes out to call catalog.hathitrust.org. It's good to know that it's reaching out to external systems. Makes sense because this is integrating with pulling information in from HathiTrust. And to install it, I simply click on the install button. It takes about a second, and then that app is now installed. So I can click on open, and now the HathiTrust app is installed. And it says to check for HathiTrust availability, navigate to bibliographic records. So I'm going to go ahead and use this pin icon to pin the HathiTrust app, to pin my Cloud App to the right-hand side. And I'm going to go ahead and perform a search here in Alma. I'm now logged into our sandbox environment, but of course, you can use Cloud Apps in your sandbox to test them out, or in your production environment, and you activate and install apps in each individual environment. So I have a list of records that were returned within Alma, and the Cloud App immediately responded and said, okay, I see that you're now looking at bibliographic records in Alma, so I'm going to perform that query against HathiTrust and pull in information. So here I see for the records that are displayed, the same records that are displayed, I'm going to show you that, for example, this record has limited availability, this has a full view, and I can click on it and I can view the record inside of the HathiTrust repository. Okay, so that is an example of how to install an app, how the app then responds to what I'm seeing in Alma, and how I can use the app. Let's go back to the app list, and I'm going to open up another one here. Actually, for this one, I'll do the same thing. I'm just going to uninstall it for a moment and then show you how to install. So I'll go down here to the Alma CSV user load. Okay, so we know that users can be created in Alma manually, or you can use XML via the SIS integration. And some customers had a requirement. They say, you know, we get a CSV file every semester to open up users for, let's say, guest lecturers or guest students. It takes us a long time to go and create them manually. So we have an app that allows you to take a CSV file. You can create a template to specify what the columns are of the CSV, and then you can use that to load and create users. So I'll go ahead and install that, and I'll click on open. And I wanted to show you here that if I click on these three dots, there are a couple of icons that appear here. So the first one is this settings icon, and it shows me that, oh, I haven't set up any profiles for this app yet. And each app may have different settings, may have different things that are required for the app. It also has a help icon, which is great. So the help icon shows me that there is a help file available for this app. And when I click on it, it takes me to a page that walks through how to use the app, how to configure profiles, how to load the files, what fields are available. It really walks through, gives you some samples of different templates to create users with different fields. And then at the bottom, it says getting help. If you like, you report a bug or request a feature, you can open an issue. So this shows me how to get more support for this app. Since apps are created by developers, they're in the community, they're supported by the community as well. So this shows me where the help information and also where to get more help. Okay, and I can just show you here that indeed there are, so this is an issue screen. This is called GitHub. GitHub is a popular open source repository used by a lot of developers, but this is not, there's no code here. This is just, this is issues very, very similar to Salesforce. So this is saying that the developers of this app, which in this case is Ex Libris, allow you to open up a question or an issue here in GitHub Issues. As I said, it's just like using Salesforce. You can, for free, create a user on GitHub. And then there are some questions here. There are some issues which are closed, some issues which are open. And you can, that's how, for this app, you can get help. So that is, and then of course, if I wanted to remove the app, it's just a matter of clicking on the garbage can to remove the app. I'll just show you one more. I'll show you one more.
I'd like to get in some questions too that have come in the chat.
Excellent. So I will show you one more app, and then we'll take a minute to answer some questions before I hand it over to you, Yoel. So I'll point out that that here I have a link or a section which says suggested apps for this page. I also have a green icon up here that indicates that the Cloud Apps framework has detected that I'm looking at bibliographic records, and it wants me to know that there are some apps which are installed which work with bibliographic records, one of them being the HathiTrust availability we saw, one of them being Alma Refine, which Yoel will show. And over in the Available tab, it says there's another app which I haven't installed yet, which also works with bibliographic records, and that's an app which prints out Bib Records in a pretty format. Okay, so it is context sensitive. It sees what I'm looking at and shows me what apps are available. So I'm going to click here on this appointment scheduler, one of the apps that I mentioned during our presentation. And I want to use this as an example to show you this little pop-out icon here. So this app has, if I click on the three dots, it has a little bit of a different icon. So previously we saw settings, that's at the user level with that little gearbox. And here, this is an icon for configuration. And that's a wrench. And the configuration is done at the institution level. So settings are on the user level, and configuration is at the institution level. So if you're an administrator, you can click on this configuration, and this allows you to configure the appointment scheduler. You can create locations. You can specify how many appointments you can have. You can specify what kind of notification you want to be sent out by the users. You can specify what the duration is, open and close, etc. And now I'll go back. And I'll use this little icon here to expand the app to take up the entire available landscape within Alma. So again, I can contract the app or I can expand it. And now I can go ahead and create an appointment for any users. If I could spell. And as I mentioned, this is actually doing a search for the users inside of Alma. And then it's going to send out a notification saying, by the way, we've created an appointment for you. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the app list. I'm going to take a moment now to see. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to leave my screen open for a minute. I'll take a moment now to check on some questions in the chat window or the Q&A window.
Josh, I can read them off to you if you want. I already put them in a document here.
That'd be great, Yoel.
They're kind of mixed in.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, will there be counterindications run by Ex Libris when there is a new functionality added monthly that might change or break the function of the app?
So that's a good question. If I understand it correctly, you're asking about, are apps backwards compatible, or do apps need to be updated on a monthly basis? So just like our REST APIs are backwards compatible, meaning if a developer in your organization has written an app or a script which uses our REST APIs, they don't have to go and test it every month because our REST APIs are backwards compatible. The same thing here with Cloud Apps. So we might add additional features or functionality to the framework, but apps should continue to work because the APIs and the framework itself is backwards compatible from month to month. Having said that, developers who want to take advantage, want to add features, fix bugs, take advantage of new functionality within Alma or within new APIs that are released or new features of the Cloud Apps framework. So of course, an app itself can have its own life cycle, and an app developer can decide to push out new releases, and those are not tied to any particular Alma release. So that's one nice thing about the agility I mentioned, the ability to respond quickly. So an app developer can push out an app update, and then you as a user don't have to do anything to update it. As soon as you go into log into Alma the next day, you're using the new version of that app.
Okay, let's go to the next question. Is there a third-party app that will preclude Ex Libris adding similar official Alma functionality? Will apps be taken into consideration when building the roadmap?
So that's also a good question. The question is, could Alma functionality make some apps no longer relevant, or could they, make them obsolete? Apps are a great way for agility, for you to add new features. Ex Libris, ourselves, we could perhaps add functionality via an app. The app that Yoel will show you in a minute is something which is probably not going to make it into the main workflow, or if it is, it'll be several years down the road. It's a great lab opportunity to try out features. It could be in the future that we might see a cloud app which is built by Ex Libris or a partner and has been very well adopted, and we want to consider adding that to the product functionality itself. And that's all a healthy part of an app ecosystem. So you see that all the time among platforms that support apps. Sometimes the main product decides to incorporate that functionality, and that's really great, because then as a user you can either decide to continue to use the app. Of course, it won't break, or you can decide to use the functionality within the main app. So that really, again, a great way to fast track certain functionality, or to try out certain pieces of functionality and allow users to take advantage of it earlier.
Okay, one more question,
I'm just cognizant of the time, so I want to just, I'll skip down just a few questions here. Cloud Apps only work in the new layout. So that is.
I answered those. There's one more question that hasn't been answered. How do you make sure apps don't contain viruses or security issues?
Sure. So Cloud Apps, when a developer creates a Cloud App and then publishes it, it goes through a review. The first time it's being published, it goes through a manual review, which we test out the functionality, we review the help, etc. And so we want to make sure that the app does what it says it does. And then every update of an app goes through a security scan to make sure that it's not using any code libraries that have known security flaws. And so that's something which happens every time an update to an app is published to our platform. In addition to that, we have Cloud Apps live, I don't want to get too technical, but they live in this little sandbox world over here inside of the Cloud App Center. And so they can't, and they have to declare if they're going to use data from another source or send data to another source. So we saw, for example, when I installed HathiTrust, the app said, by the way, you should know I interoperate with HathiTrust. So there's full disclosure about what external services the app interoperates with. Otherwise, the app is not allowed to talk to any other system. And I'll just mention in terms of security as well, that the app being installed and used inside of Alma uses the security context of the logged in user. So that means that a user has to have the privileges to view bibliographic records or update user records, whatever the functionality of the app is. So an app cannot bypass a user's roles and privileges within Alma.
Okay, thanks a lot, Josh. We're going to leave some more time at the very end if anyone has any more questions, but we do want to move on to make sure we cover some other stuff. So, thank you for passing that over. I'm going to share my screen again. Share screen. Okay, So among all of these cloud apps that Josh has mentioned, I'd like to take one specific cloud app, two time permitting, but I don't think time will permit. So one, which is called Alma Refine, and let's take a look and see what it does. And I will tell everybody already, among the many blogs that we have here on the Developers Network blog, if I just type here, cloud apps, or cloud app even, so you'll have a tag for the cloud apps. And this first one here is how to use the Alma Refine cloud app for the service GND. That's what we'll be talking about right now. This one here, how to install and use the Alma Refine cloud app. The one that Josh mentioned very recently about HatTrust is right here also. You've got an app on that. Josh also mentioned the one about printing Bib Records. By the way, those who have been using the Print Bib Records app, we just added very recently option to print in citation format. So you might want to take another look at that one. In any case, without further ado, let's begin. And by the way, also in the YouTube site of Ex Libris, which you can get through any, if we say here, Alma Refine Cloud App, Ex Libris, GND. So you'll see we've already got a movie about that using the Alma Refine Cloud App for the service GND. You're welcome to take a look at that as well. Okay, without further ado, let's begin. So I've got my apps here up on top where Josh had already pointed out, these 4 squares with a little green button. If I click there, I have here the Alma Refine. Now on purpose, I want to delete this Alma Refine one so that we can install it from the start. So I'll click these 3 dots and I'll just put her in the trash and Alma Refine is gone. So now we're going to install it from 0. So I've got my available apps. Now he already knows how to read the page and how to know what's going on here. So some of them will be just available apps depending on where I am in Alma. There might even be suggested apps, but I'm going to click the Alma Refine, click the install, and look at that, it's already installed. That was a pretty quick installation. Now let's open it up, open. And an app you can just use right off the start. However, many of them, it's recommended to at least look at the configuration because you may want to change some definitions. So here, let's take a look. Again, the 3 dots, and we've got the configuration. And these are the refined services. We'll see what the refine does. These are the services. GND is a brand new one. It was suggested by an institution, and we added it. So I'm going to go into GND. Now I can make this whole part of the screen larger so I can read this nice. You see I've got these 2 arrows here pointing outwards. I click that, and now it's big. So I see here that for the service GND, it updates the 100 field and the 650 field. If I wanted to add a field, I'm going to remove the 650 field just so I can show how to add it. So I would say add field, put in the tag, and now a 650 for GND works only when subfield 2 is GND. So I'll type GND and enter. So now this will work for GND when 650 subfield 2 is GND and there is text in the subfield A. So let's save this now. Save. Now I'm ready to work. So let's make this small again. And I'm going to do a search here. I'm going to search for computer with introductory essay by Elia Zafrani. Okay. And on that, on these results, later we're going to run this on a set, but on these results now, I want to run the Cloud App. So as you can see, the Cloud App is kind of covering part of the screen here. All I see is part of this icon here. But if I click the thumbtack, I can pin this, and now it's pinned, and I see the Alma screen and I see the Alma Refine screen, and everything is organized. It automatically adjusts to itself. And let me go back up here. I want to go back because I already saved it and finished my configuration. So now I want to run it, which I can run it on a set, which we'll do shortly. I can run it on the displayed records, which we'll do now, or on selected records. Let's first see what we have in these records because we want to see what's going to change. So the first one, Memoirs of a Computer Science Pioneer by Morris Wilkes, introductory essay by Elia Zafrani. We open this up, and under 650, second indicator 7 with a GND, we've got, which is the science of engineering, which I won't try to pronounce it. Let's look at the next one. Again, we have a 650, second indicator 7, subfield 2 GND. Take note, we do not have a subfield 0. Just taking note, both of these 650, second indicator 7, subfield 2 GND, we do not have a subfield 0. Okay. Back, begin refining, and I'll choose GND. Begin refining. And again, I'll make this larger so I can see exactly what's going on. So I'm going to concentrate now on the 650 fields, not on the 100. When we work on a set shortly, then I'll also show on the 100s. So this is the science of engineering, and I'm going to choose that one. Now, when we first defined that we want to work on the 650 subfield 7, there was an option there I didn't point out that asked if you want to work on similar headings too, not only the text that appears exactly in the field, but I'm going to choose exactly that text. Okay, the computer industry. So now we've chosen them. I'm going to say save. Successfully updated 2 records. Let's go take a look at those 2 records. So now I'm going to make this a little smaller again. And let's take a look at them. So now my 650 subfield 7, look at that. It's got a subfield 0 now, which was just added. And if I take that subfield 0, it should go to Engineer Wissenschaften. So let's take a look. It goes to Engineer Wissenschaften. So we're all set. It linked properly to that record in the GND, the Deutsche National Bibliothek. Let's take a look at the next one. So I'm going to go back to Alma, back. And this one also got updated. I pointed out before that these fields did not have a subfield 0. Okay, now let's say I'll do all titles and lean in woman work will to lead. Okay, boom. 4 records. So I want to concentrate now on this one and this one. Lean in Woman Work Will to Lead by Cheryl Sandberg. And I'm going to save this query. And I'm going to save this as a set called afternoon. I'm just going to do it like that so it's faster. Afternoon session. Oh, today is August 20th. This must be from a time I had a session on August 4th. Afternoon session, August 20th. We're saving this as a set. And save. Now, those of you who have run updating jobs on sets know that certain records cannot be updated. For example, if it's connected to the community zone or if it's locked by another user, etc. So of those 4 records, I may get a message that certain ones cannot be updated. Let's go take a look now. So now, let me go back to the beginning just so we're all fresh. And now I'm going to run it on a set. Which set am I going to run it on? Let's just refresh everything. I'm going to search for everything. And just so we start from the beginning. I'll have the option to choose whether I want to do it on a set or on something else. Okay, I'll keep spinning around. And great. So now we can do it again on the displayed records, on selected records, or a set. And now I just have to start typing part of the set. Afternoon. Look at all the afternoon ones I've got. Oxford, Friday afternoon. Afternoon local extension. Afternoon records, which have import after, but this is ours. Afternoon session, August 20th. And I'm going to run it on the GND and begin refining. So there are the 4 records there. And let's make this big again. Here's my 4 records. And I want to run this. So I'm going to say here, okay, I'll run it on Cheryl Sandberg. I'm going to run it on Cheryl Sandberg. Last time I didn't do it on the 100 fields. I only did it on the 650s. Now I'm going to do it on all the fields. I got, let's scroll down a tad. So I've got everything I need here. And items per page, I'm going to say 25. Just in case there's more, and save. Successfully updated all 4 records, and we can take a look at that. Let's go take a look at them. Admin, manage sets. Didn't I say, oh, I got to make this a little smaller now. Admin managed sets. Our set was named Afternoon. Here we are, August 20th. Members or results. By the way, if I didn't already point it out, I need to, the set needs to be an all title set. So let's see what happened here. Edit record. Uh, 650 subfield 7, here we go. This was added. And if we go there, let's look at the Cheryl Sandberg one as well. Cheryl Sandberg also got one. And if we go take a look at that one, it should point right to Cheryl Sandberg in the GND. Now, one of the important things here, Josh pointed out that there is no need to add an API key. If you look at this record, it was updated right now. 1651 is Amsterdam time, where the data center is for this one. It's the time I have for this. It's our European demo. It was updated now at 1651 by, this is the user. It's not like when I run a job in Alma and it says updated by system or updated by import. Everything that I'm doing here is me as a user. I'm logged in here as Hannah Wagner. Hannah Wagner is the one who did the update. Now, permit me, please, before we go to the questions, because there's really a nice app here that's really going to answer a lot of people's questions. I'm going to again go to, and then we're going to pop right to any more questions. Introductory essay again by Elia. Now, another app. I'm going to say here, print Bib Records. Here's my 2 records that I can print. It gives me a preview, and there are various types. This is a column format. I'm going to come in here and come into the configuration. So I have Mark Slim, citation format, and column format. I'm going to choose the citation format. Brand new. By the way, it's the same citation format. Those who are familiar with our other product, which is also a library management system, which also starts with the same 2 letters as Alma. Take a guess what it is. We had there a format citation, same format we took from here. I showed that same format to a developer. He stuck it right in there. So now I'm going to save it with citation format as the default. Go back. And now we'll print these. I see the new format, and I say print. It opens up in my browser a new tab with the records in citation format, and then from here I can print. By the way, as known, when these browsers switch to a new tab, switch to a new window, you may need to say to your browser, please, to let the update, to let the opening of a new tab occur. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Let's go to the chat and the questions, and let's see what's going on.
I have a few questions here, Yoel.
Pardon?
One of them,
Go ahead.
one of them is about if Alma Fine can be used with authority records, and right, it can be used for local authority records, which is fine. It can't be used to update community zone records. There's a question about lipstick. So printing, print in lipstick is another cloud app that's available, written by the Technion, and that integrates with the lipstick service. So what that allows you to do, if you're looking at a bibliographic record or an item or a list of items, you can push those directly to lipstick for printing. It allows you from within Alma to integrate directly into lipstick. Another question about what kind of possibilities are there for configuring print bib records. Print bib records allows you also to specify your own XSL, so you can use that to create your own format and use that in print bib records. So that's a nice feature as well. There's another Q&A about a question about API calls. So do API calls that are made via the Cloud App, do they count towards an institution's governance threshold? And the answer is no. Cloud apps are not run via, or APIs are not called with API keys, and they're not counted within an institution's governance threshold. It's as if you're using Alma. It's just the APIs are used for the developers to make it easy for them. I think those are all of the questions that I see so far. Yoel or Oren, if you see any other ones, feel free to pop in.
Are there any questions we missed, anybody?
So let me just, Yoel, if you could just put the presentation rights back on me for one more minute.
Absolutely, go right ahead. You're the presenter, take it away.
Thank you. So just want to talk about, in the 2 minutes that remain for us, I just want to talk about next steps. So as I mentioned, cloud apps are generally available now from the August release. So if you haven't already, please go ahead into your sandbox first if you'd like, and then to your production Alma. Use the configuration to enable cloud apps inside of your environment. We have here links to, as you all mentioned, this presentation is available on the Knowledge Center. And there are links to the press release. There's a blog about it. There's some demo movies and a marketing movie for you to take a look at. And then there's a link here to the documentation inside of the Knowledge Center for configuring and using cloud apps. And then finally, if you are an institution that has some developer skills, developers on staff, or if you work with developers and you would like to consider building an app, well, that's great. Extensive documentation available on the Developer Network on how to build cloud apps. I'll just click on that link quickly so you could see. It's within the Developer Network. There's a link here in addition to the blog that you all pointed out on the homepage. There's a tab up here for cloud apps, and this shows for developers now how they develop them, how they publish them. There's getting started, there's in-depth documentation, there's tutorials. So this is kind of all the information you need if you want to get started developing an app. And I'll just point out as well, there is also inside of the forum, there is a Cloud Apps forum channel now. So if you're a developer and you have some questions about Cloud Apps, you're welcome to ask those questions there in the forum. So I want to thank Yoel. I want to thank you all for joining us today. And again, we encourage you to go ahead and give it a try, because we're very excited about it and we think you'll be. Thanks, everyone.